Hey guys, back again. So today we're going to be looking at Arcane Season 1. And by the way, I'm wearing one of my favorite shirts, AT&T. Not today, but today we are looking at Arcane Season 1. And I'm really excited about this one. Sorry, carpet got stuck. Because Arcane was one of those shows that I didn't have high expectations for. And I just went in there with no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea who these characters were.
No idea.
This was probably, when did that drop? Like 5 years ago? Oh, wow. It came out during the Dark Ages, 2021. Okay, cool. I mean, it was incredible. It was one of those shows you can tell they sank a lot of money into it. It shows. And you can't say that for all shows that they sink a bunch of money in. Rings of Power. But anyway, the show was well written to the T. Put a period on that. It was incredible.
Did you like Arcane as much as I told you you would?
Yes, I really did.
And so today we're going to be looking at why it was excellent. I have made a video in the past about the Blue Eyes Samurai, which is similar in the sense where the animation's compelling, the artistry of it, the characters in it, the action scenes, all very incredible. But it was not a masterpiece. And if you want to know why, check out my video there. Wrong way.
Idiot.
There. Arcane, I would argue, is a masterpiece. And let's get into why. Like all good stories, it starts with character. The characters in this show are fleshed out and believable. They have clear motivations. I think what's incredible about it is that I don't know that I have a favorite character, which is really odd when you think about it. I mean, if anyone, it'd probably be Echo, just because he's so dang cool. But it's a show where it's not like I pick someone and I'm like, hey, this is my dude right here. And it's similar to Lord of the Rings in that sense, where Lord of the Rings, I can watch and I'm like, oh, Aragorn, wow, he's cool. And then I'm like, oh, Legolas, oh my goodness, he's so cool. You know what I mean? Gimli's pretty neat too. Arcane is just one of those shows where I think they've all got compelling aspects to them. And Arcane is a masterclass in how you can, I harp on competence a lot. It's a masterclass show in how you can have competent characters, but still lean into grimdark, where somehow things still end up going wrong despite the competency, skill level, and knowledge of the characters involved. Every voice in the show is very clear. One of the a wise piece of advice that I've gotten as I'm writing my book is a good litmus test for your characters is to see if in the dialogue itself, without any he said, she said, any of that, if you can tell who's talking, because each voice should be distinct. And so I try and lean in with that with characters. Arcane does that really, really well. If you could tune out their tones, you could probably tell who's saying what just because these characters and their motivations are so clear. And I got to give a special shout out to Silco. As a villain, he's brilliant. His motivation, he's not pure evil. He's not Sauron. I get annoyed sometimes with Disney or whoever, Hollywood in general. They want us to like empathize or sympathize. And they're like, well, he's a product of his conditions and all that. And listen, sometimes people are bad. Like there are bad people out there. That's okay. We can lean in with it. Not everything is nurture. A lot of times it is nature. And you can be given everything in the world and still be evil. Want to test me on that? Well, guess what? Stockbrokers' children, okay? Just saying, everything in the world still can turn out pretty bad.
Boy, a little brat.
We all have sin nature in us. And then some people are just tilted towards being evil. And we have to accept that. Those are villains.
Yes.
However, Silco has a dark edge, but he has a really good reason for it. And that nurture element works so well here. Because like we in the Undercity, or Zon, they want to be like the topsiders. They want that gold, shiny, vibrant color atmosphere. And let's just talk about the colors for a second. In the Undercity, there is it's grim. There is a lot of shadows interplaying with purple and green, but these aren't like vibrant, flowery purples and greens, okay? It's more like these sickly colors. The Gatsby utilized yellow gloves to indicate poison. Arcane does a lot of that, right? With the symbolism, with the coloring, and also the saturation on those colors, I think matters a lot. In general, the coloring is incredible, but I will talk about that in the next point. Right now, we're still on character, and as far as character goes, Silco does, it makes a lot of sense what he's doing, but you have to ask yourself, do the means justify the end? I personally am drawn to a well-written villain who thinks he's doing right, but is actually doing a lot of wrong. and who wants to get to this end point, but is willing to sacrifice his ideals in order to get there. Do the means justify the end? And a lot of times they don't. Otherwise, we would live in a pretty ruthless world, and we already kind of do. Enough said. I'm not going to stand up here and preach. I'm going to touch on Vi is awesome. I mean, just she keeps punching, right? Kind of got that Rocky spirit in her, little Balboa. And then Caitlin is, man, she's cool. Based another character from my book off her because I thought she was really, really cool. Just like as a, she's kind of your stereotypical, like so I watched Zootopia recently and I was like, oh, Kate. Well, actually, I'm thinking of it right now. I wasn't watching the movie and thinking that's Caitlin, but kind of is. The bunny, that's Caitlin. She has, like Silco, a lot of parallels there, a very concrete sense of ideals and adheres to them, and is idealistic in general about her worldview. And there's right, there is wrong, there's some clear lines, and she's willing to back that up and enforce. But she does so out of a place of empathy and truly wanting to make the world a better place, which is the difference between her and maybe an overconfident enforcer who is just going and trying to stamp out the Undercity. So she's a pretty compelling character. And lastly, I'll talk about Jinx. Jinx, who everyone loves. Jinx is cool. Jinx is, you know what? I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. I'm going to say it anyway. They're so easy to write. Just as characters, you kind of pick the most random action they can take or chaotic unhinged, and they do that. And so Jinx is great in a sense. She gets a ton of love, I know. So that's why I'm kind of leaning the other way in a sense. I don't want to hype her up too much just because there isn't a lot of nuance to her. Argue with me all you want, but it's the facts, right? The Joker, relatively easy to write. If you think about it, it's unbridled chaos. And in any given situation, you're just kind of writing out of the blue what they might do. So I'm sorry, she's not as, there's not as much depth as a lot of people like to hype her up to. I think it was brilliant how the writers showed us Jinx's backstory and then her turning into Jinx. Like, you know, the exact moment where she lost her marbles in a sense. It's a little bit easier to believe that there is hope for her and that she might get herself back on track. And I think the writers did an excellent job in that sense of trying to establish some stakes with her, because it's like, oh, well, maybe she'll rein it in. Maybe she'll team up with Vi again.
Maybe one day.
They did a really good job of that, and also in her development throughout the season of becoming like this voice of the Undercity. All right, we've talked a lot about character. There's a tons of characters in the show. I haven't even mentioned Echo. He's probably my favorite. He's just really cool. There's Humperdinck. There's Jace. Oh my gosh, yeah, Jace, the clean cut man of progress over there, trying to do his thing with his good buddy Victor. So let's talk about the second point that makes Arcane so excellent, and that is plot. The season itself is split up into 3 acts. You have all the characters as children or younger, and then it flashes forward in time, and then you've got Vi and Jinx grown up, and Jace is doing his thing over for the government and stuff. And so in that sense, you sort of have this duality where it's young and old. You have Undercity, and then you have the Topsiders, right? And so there is kind of this theme of duality throughout the show. The structure, I think, works really well because I talked in my last episode about cascading storytelling, and it really does that, where you have this overarching plot, but then you've got these subplots within the acts, and then subplots within the episodes. Everything has a point. Everything is promise driven. Thank you, Brandon Sanderson. And so the story keeps moving. Its pacing's excellent. You're sitting there like, oh my gosh, you know. And since you have this 3-act structure, there is a climax at the end of each act, and you feel that. And I think it keeps you engaged and keeps you wanting more. It feels like you're watching mini seasons, which is cool because you can binge watch mini season 1 and then jump right into mini season 2. All right, we've talked character, we've talked plot. Now, I'm going to talk some of the ancillary effects that made it so excellent. And that's going to be the music or the soundtrack, because they dropped some absolute bangers in there. Imagine Dragons. The scene where Echo and Jinx, oh my gosh, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but the show came out like 5 years ago. Or 4 years ago. Oh no, almost 5, 2026. But anyway, Echo and Jinx have this face off on the bridge, and it is I will argue that it is the best animated scene I myself have ever seen. It is the best combination of artistry, artwork, music, action, story arcs. It's got it all. It's incredible. And the song fits so well. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go check that out because the scene is absolutely incredible. Just type in Jinx versus Echo and it'll pop up for you. Okay, and I touched on this before, but the lighting and the coloring, it works so well. I mean, just when you're on topside, when you're in the Undercity, when you're anywhere that you are in the show, because the colors in the scene all just build and they do it so well. And it's kind of like how with the character, knowing who is speaking without necessarily saying Kaysen said this. Well, think of that similarly to the colors, where it's knowing where you are without seeing details, but you see the colors and you can just tell. It's like, I'm in this spot because of these colors. Classic example is Mount Doom, let's say, where you have the just darkness, kind of red, dark red, scarlet, very gloomy, or Barad-dur, and you immediately know, just because of the drab colors and the darkness, the lack of lighting, where you are. Okay, something else I've touched on, but it's kind of like the bling of storytelling is the tension, the stakes. So those are words I use a lot in my videos, and it's because they're incredibly important. Brandon Sanderson always talks about promise, progress, and payoff. Payoff matters big time, and a lot of shows miss the mark on this. And what's great about Arcane is I've talked through their clear motivations, but what's at stake is also pretty important. It's the balance of power, right? Where you have the Undercity, then you have Topsiders, and you've got this precarious existence between the two. But the Undercity, they're not really happy with where they are. So they're trying to take back power, and they're doing so by cutting out the legs of Topsiders. So there's a big difference between propelling themselves up to be on the same level and just taking a scythe and sweeping it under the legs of the Topsiders, and cutting them down to be on their level. So ain't that a problem in this world? So the stakes are very, very high. There's also magic and science, and kind of the marrying of the two. And then you have Humperdinck who's saying, "Oh no, we can't do that."
There's no greater hunter than Prince Humperdinck.
His character is a little bit frustrating. Maybe I'll make a video about that another time. So you also kind of feel that, they are playing with the arcane, with powers that are beyond their understanding and they've only tapped into, but there's a whole lot more it can do, and it is verging on dangerous. And so there's some stakes there. Then you have the personal stakes where it's Vi and let's say Caitlyn. There's some tension there. It's good cop and
I'm bad cop, you're good cop.
Kind of a buddy cop scenario where they're trying to solve a mystery in the city, an investigation. Then you've also got Vi and her sister Jinx, and the tension there just from childhood and where they had that schism, that fight, and separated. And then Jason, Victor, and just always kind of wondering, like, hey, are we doing the right thing? Are we actually helping? Are we hurting our city? Like, how do we improve things and not just do things for commercial gain? They do a great job of establishing stakes and trying to make the characters have that conflict that I referenced. So, season 1. Is it worth watching? Is it a masterpiece?
Yes.
Absolutely, emphatically. Season 1 of Arcane is a masterpiece. It's excellent. Even if you don't like animation, there's a good chance you would like this animated show. We can talk about season 2 another time. I think it does a really good job of carrying the momentum. It felt a little bit short of season 1, just in my personal opinion. And I think primarily for that, well, I'll talk about that in another episode. But I would say it's also up there, maybe not S tier, but like A tier. But season 1 is something special. And I think personally that it was a game changer in how it took a very popular game that I've never played and then made it into this compelling, intriguing, and vivid world that I stepped into and was like, wow, this is amazing. So kudos to them.